This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. I'm solo today because Mr. Ben is a busy man, and I brought in my awesome wife to come help me. So she's behind the scenes right now making funny faces at me, and I'm trying to focus here. But anyways, I wanted to at least put out a quick episode of just my thoughts on the weekend and the fights that we had. We had a big UFC fight card and a Canelo fight, and Canelo lost for the first time in 8 years. And so that is, a lot of people are saying that, he got too confident and was cocky and was moving up weight classes. But I mean, that's part of what makes him great, is not only that he's a technician, but that he's willing to go up several weight classes to prove that he is the best boxer in this generation. And there's a lot of controversy when it comes to like Floyd Mayweather being 50-0 and fighting some guys that were kind of past their prime. And then there's the other train of thought that says he's a very defensive fighter, and so it makes him one of the best. And I'm neither here nor there when it comes to that. I believe that Floyd Mayweather is one of the best technicians and one of the best defensive fighters that we've seen in the ring ever step up, but there's definitely something great about Canelo and the things he's been able to accomplish in the ring and out of the ring. And it's a pretty cool perspective to kind of witness that. I feel like a lot of times, historically, especially me as a fan, haven't really like not taken into consideration, but it's easy to hate on greatness. Like Tom Brady, I'm a Raiders fan, and so that whole Tom Brady's career really propelled after that Tuck rule and sending them to the Super Bowl, when they were in the AFC Championship game, and because of that, I never really appreciated Tom Brady. I recently just finished watching his this is like a docu-series on ESPN Plus, Man in the Arena, and it talks about his Super Bowl victories and some of the struggles he had in his career, and you tend to forget that he's just a human being that happens to play a sport, a fun sport, at a very high level. And I think us as fans, when you get that behind the scenes access or behind the scenes look into who the man is or who the athlete is, it lets you appreciate not only the sport more, but that person and that athlete a little bit more. And so that's where I'm at with Canelo. Is like this guy's challenging himself to go compete against the best. Now, Bivol or however you say his last name, isn't the most popular on social media, doesn't have the most followers, doesn't do things for clout, and he's not just another fighter. He's a world champion in his weight division. So the fact that Canelo, who is much smaller than him, moved up to go fight, it says a lot about what Canelo thinks about the sport and how proud he is to be a boxer. And being a former fighter and athlete at that, you're gonna have off nights, and not to make excuses for him, but maybe he just wasn't on point. Maybe it didn't mean as much to him. I don't know what the reason is, but or maybe he just got outboxed. Being a technician like that and then getting outboxed, it happens. And so, it's really cool to witness that. And you can open it. It's fine. We're real here. No edits on the Fight Within. But I think it's a very interesting perspective. It's really cool to be able to witness that nowadays, and to have a fighter that that is willing to essentially challenge himself to be great. No one's going to remember all those moments. Like if you just win 50 in a row, but there's really no monumental moments. Like a lot of people think, like I personally believe Oscar De La Hoya beat Floyd Mayweather. There's the Diego Corrales fight that people look at, and if you're looking at the scoring criteria, both of those gentlemen beat Floyd Mayweather, and so that's neither here nor there. But just the fact that he got beat, it was pretty decisive. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a close fight, but hats off to you, Canelo, and hopefully one day we'll get to have you here on the Fight Within, and then we had some crazy UFC fights, and I just want to talk about the three that I kind of saw. I was on a date with my wife that night, and so we went to a buddy's house, and we didn't really have time to watch the whole card, but when I walked into the house, an old training partner of mine, Tony Ferguson, was fighting Michael Chandler, and I fought on a couple cards with Michael Chandler when we were at Bellator, and I met him a couple of times, and the dude is nothing but a gentleman. Tony was obviously one of the best lightweights to ever compete in the UFC, and kind of what he did this last decade in winning those 9 or 10 fights in a row, and kind of cementing his place in the UFC, and being an interim champ and things like that. The things he's been able to accomplish have been great, and he's done some great things. He's 38 now. He's a little bit older and hasn't fought in a little while. He was coming off of 3 fights, I believe, a 3-fight losing streak, and then you go up against someone like Michael Chandler, who's had came in from Bellator as a lightweight champion, and has had nothing but tough fights since he stepped into the UFC, and to see a fight end like that after what maybe could have been, if it went 3 rounds, it could have been the fight of the year. Both of these guys have grit. They have no quit in them, and the fact that it ended the way it did was crazy to witness. There hasn't been very many front kick knockouts in the UFC at a high level, just because those guys are so high level. But to witness something like that, and then to have an old training partner go out like that was kind of scary, but it was definitely a great technique. And if you guys listen to the post-fight interview, he talks about how they didn't really train for that, and he saw an opening and he took it. And a lot of times in fighting, those are the moments that you get a finish, is when you're not necessarily looking for the knockout. That's when you get it, because you're going out there and you're doing your job. And so I just wish Tony nothing but the best, and he's another guy that's here locally that we can hopefully have on sometime in the near future. And congrats to Michael Chandler and everything he's done, and everything he's going to do in the UFC to kind of close out his career. And then we move on to Thug Rose, and Carla Esparza, another local girl who's now a champ. And I don't really want to touch on it. Everyone saw it. There's really no controversy. It was a very, very boring fight. I don't know if they're, whatever the game plans were, they were both kind of hesitant to pull the trigger. A lot of people were saying that Rose maybe had a mental block because she's lost to her before, or is maybe in her own head. And so those are things that you definitely deal with. Those are things I dealt with, when I was fighting. There's moments where I remember just, wanting to get a paycheck. I couldn't wait until the fight was over. I was just like, oh man, I can't wait to get paid. This is, I have no passion for this anymore. It's not fun. I'm just doing this for money, and you have those thoughts, and when you have those thoughts, it's a mental block that doesn't allow you to compete at the highest level. It doesn't allow you to pull the trigger in certain times in the fight, and that can cost you. We're not playing football. We're not swinging a bat and hitting a baseball. We're fighting, and you go in there to, not intentionally, maybe some guys do and some fighters do, but you go in there to hurt somebody and to win. And I don't know what happened in that fight. I believe that it was judged the right way. Carla definitely won. She did more based on the judges' scoring criteria. She did more to win the fight, and so she's the new champ. And then And you move on to the main event, which was Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje, and that was, I mean, just the round that it was definitely a barn burner. You know, they were going back and forth, and Justin dropped him a couple times and hurt him. Then Justin got hurt on the feet, and it goes to show just when you prepare properly, the things that can happen, and that goes for anything in life, not just sports or athletics. You know, if you prepare properly in business, if you have a business plan and you have goals that you want to accomplish and things that you want to do, that's the outcome, no matter the adversity. Like Charles Oliveira prepared for a fight, and he prepared for a 5-round fight, prepared for wrestling, prepared for, you know, striking and jiu-jitsu, and he was faced with some adversity, and there's a lot of there's some media people that always bring up the fact that he gave up, that he quit at 145 pounds, and that characteristic is always inside you, but it's not. You know, if you've prepared right, you trust the process, and that's the outcome you're gonna get. You know, someone like Charles Oliveira, who's very talented, has all the talent in the world, and has obviously proven himself and is now the champion. You know, that goes to show you that if you prepare the right way, if you do things, you know, properly, and I'm not even saying proper, if you just work hard, because there's no real proper way. You hear of all these stories in the NFL and the NBA and fighting where guys have very unconventional stories or backgrounds of how they got to where they are, and so but they kept working. You know, they found ways to pivot and to change, to either switch camps or to go to another coach, or to change their mentality, change the way their preparation is and how they're getting ready for the fight. If you take all those things into consideration, those traits translate very well to life. You know, as a husband, as a father, as a businessman, if you're willing to fight, if you're willing to continue, and no pun intended, but it's a fight from within. You know, it's things that you have to accomplish, and a lot of that has to do with identity. And a lot of times I struggled with it a lot when I was competing and fighting. You know, you put your identity in the sport or what you do, whatever your profession is. If you're a salesman, you know, I'm a salesman for Canon. I'm a professional fighter, you know, and that's who you become. You kind of mold into this person that you think people want you to be, and you identify as that, as opposed to, you know, when I was fighting, I was already married, I had kids, I had responsibilities, but it was hard for me to identify as a father, as a brother, until it was time to do those things, as a husband. You know, when I was at the gym, it was always like, okay, I'm Bam Bam, and that can mess up, that can seep into like your real life. You know, and it affects it in different ways because you think that you have to be a certain way, and you don't. And so I think the fact that Oliveira, you know, got hurt, he played it smart. I mean, went to the ground, went to his back, knowing that he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and Gaethje wanted none of that. Not because he's not talented, there because he hurt him and he knew he could finish him. And I think Gaethje had a pretty smart game plan. There's times where he got reckless, and he probably could have come in a little bit more under control, and he didn't, you know, and you pay the price at that high level, at that championship level. Those little mistakes cost you, and they cost him the fight. And I believe that Justin Gaethje is a championship caliber fighter. I think he can definitely be a champion in the UFC, and it hasn't gone his way. You know, when he fought Khabib the first time, you're talking about one of the greatest lightweights to ever compete, and Khabib, and he was so dominant, and he showed that, and now Gaethje gets a second shot at Oliveira, and just you know, did his best. He was in his hometown. It would have been this story, you know, this perfect movie ending type of deal with him winning in his home state, and all that kind of good stuff, and it just didn't go that way. And I hear people talk about it all the time, where, you know, and it's very true. You there's no fairy tale ending in this sport. It is very hard. A lot of times when when you figure out that it's too late for you is when you're on the canvas knocked out and you realize that your body's just not reacting the same. You're not as fast as you thought you were, and you end up paying the price in a pretty bad way. And all in all, it was a good weekend of fights, a good time to be a fight fan, and it was awkward. Some of the people that you thought were gonna win didn't win, and some of the finishes were great. It was just a very weird weekend for fights, and those type of things happens, and that's why it's so fun to be a fight fan, because you can go in so many different directions, and so I just wanted to get on here, just real quick and talk about the weekend and then the fights and kind of what we have coming up. There's some pretty cool things. It's really cool to kind of change subjects a little bit. It's really exciting when I see you guys ordering, because I get notifications, because our website is a Shopify site, so I get notifications of when someone orders, and there's times when you're like, man, and no one listens to this, no one cares. But the fact that you guys are ordering product and supporting us, by doing so, goes a long way, and it really means a lot to Ben and I. We were texting back and forth yesterday when an order came in, and it's just exciting, exciting to see where this podcast started, the transitions we've made with it, and then partnering up with Ben and seeing the growth of it is something really, really special. It's very gratifying when you work hard at something and you edit, because I don't know if you guys know, but like, we edit all our own content. We put out all our own shows. We have to go find guests. We got to record, and Ben has a full-time job and is a business owner and is a husband and a father. I have a business and I'm a husband and a father, and so when we do this, it's because we love it and we want to turn it into something special. We really believe that we can impact other people's lives by just sitting here and having conversations. And so thank you guys for the people that are supporting us. Thank you for the people that are ordering products online. Just go to the fightwithhimpodcast.com and check out our inventory, our new designs. And thank you guys for the people that are sharing our posts and sharing the podcast and subscribing to it and rating us. It goes a really, really long way in the algorithm of all our platforms, and not only the audio, but on YouTube too. When you guys comment and like it messes with the algorithm, and it helps us be on featured pages or get noticed like that. And so we just appreciate you guys. It means a lot, and thank you guys for tuning in. This might have been a boring episode, but we're gonna probably do more like this, where Ben and I kind of sit down and talk about either recaps of the episodes of things we learned, or if there's big events coming up or events that just happened, and we can kind of break them down and talk about them. So thank you guys for the support. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for rating. Go to the fightwithhimpodcast.com, order some merch, share our podcast, subscribe to it, and like it. And just remember, guys, that everything was impossible till someone did it.